Hello, my name is Nathan Humphrey, and I'd like to start this story with a few questions just to think about. They might make sense at the end of it. So, the first question is a robber who breaks into a house in a self defense situation when the owners try and drive him out? The second question is in a dog eat dog world, is it wrong to want to be on top? Now, the story I'm about to tell you is like a bad guy story. It's an American story from the perspective of the rich American settlers, kind of the antagonist nowadays. We don't really hear this side of the story, so I think it's kind of important, when we're telling all these African American perspectives, Native American women, all that, we need to get the perspective of you know, the people doing the wrong. So, from the European perspective, when in early America, right, for hundreds of years before, life was set the second you're born. You are a peasant if you are a peasant, you are a lord if you are a lord, and for the most part, it's that way forever. You might be a well off peasant, you'll never be more than that. You might be a lowly lord, but you are still a lord. It was set and hierarchical, and um, the church was a huge power of control, and many English settlers of America were Protestant, but the Catholic Church controlled most of Europe, so they sort of felt like they were the odd ones out. So you get to this land where all of that history doesn't exist. You're so many miles away from it. This is a new start, a new opportunity. Now, the thing is, you have some problems. This land may be new to you, but it is not new to the people who live there. And there are very, very many people who live here called Native Americans nowadays. But back then, they were all very different, just as different as every European is from each other. The French, the English, the German, all of them. The Native American tribes are just as different. And they were everywhere. So the thing is, to make this new life for yourself, you need this land. And to use it the way you want, you need those people not there. So, what you gotta do is you gotta get people to come over here, and you need a reason to get these other people who are here out of here. So, what you do, or what they did, was they made this a series of justifications that formed the idea that people of the time had of the Native American and spread it everywhere. They said they weren't using their resources effectively, so they weren't tearing up and destroying the land they lived on. Um, they did not have the same technology as Europeans, so they were clearly, uh, you know, not as technologically advanced, not as smart. They didn't have the customs. They weren't English. They weren't German. Uh, Go figure. People not from Europe aren't European. And the big one, though, they didn't know about Jesus. How could they not know about a guy they would have never been able to hear about? How could how could this occur? This was unforgivable. So we have to give them Christianity. That's it. That's what we're doing. So when we go in there, when we kill them without regard for anything, we torch their places, stomp their holy ground. Well, that's pagan stuff. Now they get to go to Indian schools. You know that road over there, Indian school? They get to go there. They get to learn about Jesus, and we get everything. So that had been their perspective for a long time. There was a war when they were still under British control with the French, and they beat out the French, got a large part of, those southern states we have. Yeah, well, that's where we got them from. That's why those people are, Creole, and they speak some of the patois and all that. And then we fought the English because we were like, well, I'm doing all this work fighting off these Native Americans, making my slaves cultivate the land. It's hard stuff. And these British, they're taking my money. Can you believe that? And they're telling me what to do. You'd think if a person works tirelessly to improve their life and make their own wealth, they should be able to keep it and decide what to do with it, right? And everyone was like, oh, yes, good sir, yes, absolutely. So they fought a war of independence while they had slaves keeping their houses. So that they obviously weren't big on the compassion bone. They continued to fight off the Native Americans, taking up all that middle section, the breadbasket we have, the Dust Bowl, all that, until they got to where we are. And now you see the problem is when they got to where we are, there were there were people here, but not native people. They were these new people called Mexicans, and they got their independence from a European nation just like us. But you see, the thing is, they weren't just like us, because you see, over here, we kept all those races, the ones, the Native Americans and whatnot, we kept them out of our bloodline. But these Mexicans, they were the natives and the Spanish mixed together. So they were not British at all, not German, not Scottish, and certainly not like us. So then we had to have a Mexican American War, and that's why we live in a state called Arizona that is in the United States. Because we couldn't have Mexicans having land that their ancestors lived on. That just doesn't make sense. So now that we got this whole place, we still have some problems. We got these Africans who we have enslaved, um, and they make up our workforce. They're just great little guys, but they're getting really numerous. And if they rebelled on us, one of our many enemies could capitalize, and they could take over the United States. So we need to really make sure that never happens. So what do? You got all these people working for free who obviously do not want to work for free. Um, they are mostly West Africans, so they don't believe in Jesus. They are Muslim, most of them, or they have their own religions. Some of them don't even speak English. The ones who do and have been here a long time, they kind of they're not so much a problem. It's just sometimes they go crazy and murder a whole family of people for I can't imagine why. But yeah, it's just really difficult to control these guys. So think about it. What would you do to control them? Well, when we were in Europe, the Catholic Church, they used the church to control people and they got a lot of money doing it, right? Well, what if we force religion down their throats and tell them that it's right that they're doing what they're doing? There it is. There it is. So every Sunday, we're gonna let them off. They're gonna go in the mornings. They're gonna go and they're gonna sing. They're gonna sing. They're gonna dance and they're gonna praise Jesus. Jesus, being obedient. You know, masters to thy slaves. All that stuff. All those verses. Get them on deck. Make sure these people are just like us, except they know their place. So there we go. We're giving them salvation and they're helping their country. They don't get to participate in their country, but they're helping us and their souls are saved. So we're kind of like heroes if you think about it. Now, that was their perspective, but they had one more really big problem that they couldn't solve the same way as the other ones. There are Europeans who do not think the same way as us. They are our sisters, our brothers, our mothers and fathers, our cousins, and our neighbors. But for some reason, they can't understand why we need to do the things we do. So, we can't kill them. No, we cannot kill them. Because that just, people would say something about that. That's too far. We can't enslave them. We can't just throw them in prison because, that's what people would say something. What are we gonna do? Can you think of anything? No, I can't either. Hmm. Hmm. Well, oh, I got it. Okay, what if we pay them money? Right? What if we give them land on on the frontiers where they're still Native Americans, and we give it to them for free. We just give them land. We tell them to come out, live out here, be patriots, right? And then the Native Americans kill them, and then we retaliate, and then we take over all that land, okay? And then it's like they're the savages that attacked us, and then we save them. So then they're the big bads. Yeah, yeah, I like that idea too. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think we'll do that one. Now, with the slave, well, you know, back in Europe, you really couldn't do a lot, right? Think about that. Let's tell them that. What if we tell them, back in Europe, you were like a slave. You couldn't do anything. You were just a lowly little European guy stuck in your class. But if you come to America with just a few acres and a few slaves, you could live like the king of your old country, right? Yeah, yeah, that is a good sales pitch. Write that down actually. Go ahead and write that down. Um, and of course, when you get here and you do all this hard work and you make yourself a king shouldn't be like a slave, right? Like, look at these people. They're clearly different. They are slaves, and you don't want to be looked down on like them, right? Besides, they would ruin everything. I mean, think about it. If they're just as good as you, what are they gonna do with it? They're gonna, I don't know. They're, they're gonna grow watermelon or something. Like, instead of cotton, they'll just be eating all the watermelon. They'll be burning down everything, spending money on stupid stuff. They don't know how to control themselves. So it's good that we are the ones in charge. We help them, they help us, and then we live like kings. This is the natural order, okay? That's what I'm talking about. The circle of life. It's just how it goes. Now, the only problem from the perspective we've been going from here of these people who just do whatever to get rich and stay on top is that they can't change the truth. And the truth is that everything they said isn't true. All of it's a lie. Now, this land that they killed for, they filled it up with black smog, smokestacks, had children working like 15-hour shifts in factories. They would end up dying at 16 of black lung. Um, Slaves beaten to death in the streets. The Native American plight, like always, asking for their land back, who are clearly not savages with deep culture. They just couldn't hide the truth. And people saw this. They couldn't take away their power, and they couldn't take away the fact that other people saw it and they weren't monsters. They became allies who helped them in their cause. And nowadays, they're on the losing side. They've been on the losing side. They can't just outright kill us. They can't enslave us. We all have that protection now. So all they can do is they can bribe us, they can intimidate us, and they can instigate amongst ourselves. But as long as we have compassion for each other and we keep united and do what is right rather than what makes us rich, then they have no power over us. We cannot be divided. So don't forfeit comfort. Don't forfeit what is right.